Hi, this is Joel Addis, and I am really looking forward to sharing my portfolio with you for my non degree endorsement in building leadership. I really view this as a summation of my experiences to date, both as part of this coursework as well as my experiences um, as an educator. So, the first section of this is program information. And then we move on to candidate information. And so the first piece is an artifact folder. And I used, instead of keeping everything in separate folders, I really just tried to use a consistent naming structure where for my artifacts, I titled them by standard number, then component number, then activity letter, then level, then artifact, and then what it was. And so this really helped me as I went through because as I was organizing my slides, it helped me go through and then say, okay, I've got my slide. Here's where my artifact is. Once we get down past the artifacts, everything is categorized by my name and then what it is. And this helped me really keep everything organized. My goal video, I did this a little later than I thought I probably should have, just in that instead of doing it at the beginning of my program, I did it at uh, right before I did my practicum. And so when I thought about this, it really made me think, I'm about halfway through my career. I've been here for about 20 years. I've got about 20 more years. And so, what do I really want the rest of my career to look like? So, I know that within the next 1 to 5 years, I want to be a building principal, and I'm excited to share I will be in the fall. But I know that I don't want to be done growing as a learner and as an educator and as a leader. And so I do have a plan within the next 1 to 5 years, getting my district level endorsement. And then within 5 to 10 years, moving into leadership at that level. My leadership philosophy is stated here, and that really helped me as I was preparing my application packet because it really provided me with that foundation for my cover letter that I utilized. My plan of study is presented here, and it shows that I began my program through Fort Hays State University last March. I've taken classes every semester with an anticipated end date of this May. When I looked at my program completion timeline, I really focused on it more as a professional timeline. And so it actually took me a while because it covered 20 years of my life. It was really helpful though because it helped me have honestly a curriculum vitae ready to go that I just had to write down when I submitted my application. The other thing is it really helped me see and recognize that instead of just immediately growing as a leader, I've had these incremental opportunities that I've taken that have provided me with the knowledge base and just the opportunities to build my own capacity, leading to this program and what's going to be happening in the fall. When I look at my resume, this is actually the resume that I completed for my job application for my position as principal at Swaney Elementary. It includes my previous experience. It includes my coursework, my awards, the relevant skills I felt like I had to bring to bear to this new position, and I also included my curriculum vitae. So the next section are my activities, and first is my annotated bibliography. And so when I look at this bibliography, I'm really looking at it from how it prompted the desire for additional research. I went through and I looked at, over 30 resources across 11 components, and as I was reading them, I came up with additional things I wanted to look into. And so, actually, once I get through this coursework and I know that I'm done, just for my own growth and development, I have a list of articles and books that I want to read on concepts such as relational trust, transformative leadership, and professional learning communities. And that's all come from this annotated bibliography. My activity log is here. My spreadsheet is below, and I ended up with a total of 494 hours for this practicum ePortfolio. My component tracker is here, and as we look at this and go into the slideshow, I have more than I needed to have. But the reason I did that is because I began to really look at this again as that summation of what I have done as an educational leader candidate. And so each of these activities has really contributed to my growth and how my capacity is developed. And the portfolio, the slideshows would not have felt complete without them. So there is, are some situations where there are more than one in the same component, not at the same level though. So when we look at my district level activity artifact slideshow, now we can look, and I utilized a culture of collaborative engagement presentation to communicate professional norms. I utilized my attendance and modeling ethical practice at representative assemblies. I utilized my participation in request for purchase processes through our benefits committee and our communications committee for our district website, as well as my participation in curriculum and instruction meetings with principals and other members of the leadership team. This is one of my favorite activities, and that was organizing the Board of Education Candidate Forum last fall. So when you look at the pictures on these slideshows, if you click on them, they'll take you to a larger version of the artifact, except for the picture down here and several others like it throughout my presentations, because those will take you to the City of Derby website, which hosts all previous meetings. And so I really was happy to be able to include that because it actually takes you to the event that I participated in, and in this case, organized. The same is here for this photo of me speaking at a board meeting. And so through my ability as president of DNEA, I've been able to speak at each board meeting and communicate regularly with our superintendent. In terms of advocating for resources and supportive needs, I used my participation in our bargaining process. This is one of my favorite events, and that was our new teacher breakfast. And we utilized that to build that positive school culture to really help provide staff members with that comprehensive knowledge of what they need to know as they move into a new career. Just a small side note: that picture on the right is one of my favorites. That the educator that I'm standing, really doing the same body language with, is actually my mother, who's a first grade teacher at Tanglewood Elementary here in Derby. Next, we have building professional capacity by engaging staff in leadership roles through DNEA rep meetings, but then also identifying candidates for the executive board, encouraging them, building their capacity, and then facilitating elections. And then finally, in terms of observing in a variety of classrooms, the opportunities I had through the KEEP evaluations at Fort Hays State. So when we look at the elementary level, the first activity I did was focused on mission, vision, and improvement, specifically geared towards Swaney Elementary. I had the benefit, once I got my job, of being able to almost intern exclusively at Swaney. I had a different mentor at an different elementary building, but a lot of the work I did was kind of geared towards that internship at Swaney and prepping for my work there. So this is a piece that I actually plan on carrying through to next year, as well as the work I did evaluating their KISA plan. When I look at my ethics and professional norms, I utilized a video I had created about my own leadership style, and that was how I had reflected on my own practice. I also included information from a Coaching 101 training, which includes self-reflection as part of that coaching cycle. I took the time to interview different teacher groups at Swaney Elementary once I got the job there. I looked for common themes and then utilized them to create that word graph. In terms of learning and instruction, I focused on my participation in positive intervention team processes, as well as serving as an LEA rep and also participating in the development of individualized education plans and 504s. I reviewed the demographics for Swaney Elementary, as well as the available resources, and compared them to what the district looks like as a whole. And then in terms of regular two-way communication with the community, I've been interviewed a couple of times by our local paper and also submitted writings to them in honor of American Educator Week, American Education Week. Operations and management, I utilized feedback from our building leadership team at Swaney to develop a draft of our master schedule. I'm actually going to present this to them tomorrow night. Building leadership capacity and identifying candidates. I have been fortunate enough to participate in several virtual events, including 2 district showcases and 1 virtual education interview day, as well as part of my internship, um, sitting in on interviews for open positions at Swaney next year. I've been able to mentor 2 teachers this year in the district, and I mentored 2 teachers last year in the district, and utilized that mentorship relationship to provide them ongoing actionable feedback. And I utilized the pause method as I was doing this. Next, we have my secondary slideshow. And so when I look at it, the first piece I did was to look at a vision of a secondary school, because I really want to be able to utilize that as I'm looking at Swaney's vision statement next year and just kind of compare what it looks like at a different school. In terms of our ethics and professional norms, I generated an infographic about ethical decision making that could be utilized at a secondary level, as well as information about FAPE and people first language to prompt equity. In terms of looking at inclusive responses among teachers and staff, I generated a behavioral incident response chart that could be used at the secondary level, as well as a presentation on digital literacy and citizenship. To foster two-way communication with families, I participated in a site council at Derby Middle School, and I did that both as a practicum student and then also as a parent. So seeing it from different viewpoints. One of the days that I spent shadowing at Derby North Middle School, I participated in this presentation about the Cardinex scheduling system. And at that point, we then looked at special schedules with the goal of looking at the equity of school operations and seeing how it impact teacher allocation across those different courses. Another day at Derby North Middle School, I developed a site plan for a in-service day that took place on April 18th. In terms of communicating policies, laws, and regulations, I focused on utilizing multiple infographics and a video presentation that could be communicated at the secondary level. In terms of modeling and fostering effective communication, I had the opportunity to speak before the Kansas and Senate Committees on Education in February and advocated for students at the secondary level, but honestly not limited to the secondary level, in regards to some bills that were before the House. And I was advocating for students through advocating for staff. And so on this, if you click that picture of me, you will be taken to a YouTube site that hosts the actual committee minutes from that day. My administrative verification documents, I was able to meet with an elementary, secondary, and district administrators who have served as my mentors this year. That really helped because it allowed me to just really reflect with them on my practices and what the year had been. And that led into my program reflection, where I looked at not only my practicum experience, and honestly, the fact that when I went into this, I didn't think it would be that hard, which was not the case, as I explained. And then really that conjecture of why did I think that? And by analyzing, realizing that I probably was a little arrogant coming into this and had a level of overconfidence. And so then, once it started, I realized that wasn't the case. And then finally synthesizing that really once I adopted the view of my ePortfolio is that summative piece, really encapsulating everything I had done in education. It just really um, pushed that into a new viewpoint for me. It also includes reflections for each of my coursework, as well as hyperlinks to relevant modules. And then the final component is something you're actually watching, which is this highlight video. And so this really serves just to review this. I really appreciate you taking the time to look at this. Um, this has been such an incredible experience for me and has just truly transformed me as an educator and as a leader. And I just thank you so very much.